Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very special episode of World of Darkness News. This is Vampire the Masquerade Night Road special. Today we're celebrating the release of the first interactive novel of choice of games set in the Vampire the Masquerade world. We'll have three of them: Night Road, Parliament of Knives, and Out for Blood. Night Road releases today, and it follows the story of a vampire courier, written by Kyle Marquis, who was a guest on World of Darkness News episode 4. If you want to listen to the first interview in which we were still talking to Kyle writing this game and developing it and telling us a little bit more about the process in itself, about his past with World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade, then feel invited to go to our YouTube channel and check it out. But today we're going to get a little bit more into the meat, into the story, into the mechanics of Night Road, and ask Kyle about all of those things which you will meet in the game and on the road. So without further ado, let's shift very quickly to talk with Kyle. Hello there, Kyle. Nice to see you there.
Hello everyone.
I'm super happy to see you here again. So how you've been doing for all this time?
I've been extremely busy. I've just finished up. I just finished the last of the bug checks about 12 hours ago, and then I went to bed. And here I am. So we've been very busy on Night Road, but it's looking really clean, really polished right now. I'm really excited for people to be able to play it.
I'm super excited as well. I can't wait to play it myself. So, as much as, of course, we covered a lot of these things in the first episode when you were joining us on the show, I want to give people a very quick reminder. What is Vampire the Masquerade Night Road?
Okay, Vampire the Masquerade Night Road is, first, it's an interactive novel from Choice of Games. If, as a younger person, you ever enjoyed Choose Your Adventure or Choose Your Path books, it looks a little bit like that. It also looks a bit like the visual novels like Coteries of New York, but it doesn't have graphics. It's all text except for a few pieces of art. We use a complicated and very impressive system called Choice Script, which lets us track choices and really turns the interactive novel experience into a complete game. So you have stats, you have skills, you have the full game experience, but it also feels like an interactive novel. Night Road in particular is about a vampire courier in the American Southwest trying to survive as the Second Inquisition burns pretty much every they can get their hands on. You find yourself tangling with Second Inquisition agents, with different factions of the kindred. You also find yourself dealing with someone who has a pretty intelligent sounding plan to bring down the Masquerade, and whether or not you side with him determines a big chunk of how the game proceeds. You also get a bunch of cool cars.
Yeah, I mean, we are of course going to talk about cars again, because that has to happen, especially about one particular Rolls-Royce, but I'm going to leave that for later on. I want to, of course, go a little bit more to the technicalities at first, just to give people the whole picture. So you managed to write 600,000 words. Is that true?
650. Yes, 650,000 words. It is a big game.
That's amazing. And of course, there was a question which we've received through social media before. How many routes or endings can we expect in Night Road?
Well, there are a bunch of different ways that the game can end and a bunch of different axes around which the game can end. There are three main approaches to how you try to end the game. You can side with Prince Leto and the Camarilla. You can side with Julian Sim and his plans to start bringing down or metamorphosizing the Masquerade, or you can say, screw these monsters, and you can either bail on your own accord or bail while trying to lure the Second Inquisition in to destroy the local vampire population in Tucson, in Arizona. In addition to that, you have to think about how well you've done in each of those endings. It is a game. Night Road is a game, and you can have some really rough endings if you don't do too well in each of those three main endings. There are also a number of possible epilogues based on sort of how you want to continue your existence after the events in Tucson, assuming you survive. And there are also a number of friendship and romantic possibilities, and those can go in a lot of different directions. Your friends or romantic partner, they can end up dead or destroyed. They can end up with you, abandoning you because your humanity is low and you're obviously a monster. There are a lot of different ways that can go. Or if you, like, it's mathematically possible, though I don't know if anyone's done it, you actually can live happily ever after as a vampire. At least I wrote those options, and they mathematically it's possible, but I don't know how to do it. Players are going to have to tell me how to do it. I don't know how to do that.
Now I will need to do my best to live happily ever after after my embrace, which I never thought was possible. All my storytellers tell me it's absolutely not an option. But yeah, that sounds great. And of course, yeah, I would love to sum up a little bit all of this process which happened since you were here last time. You were still in the development of the game. You were still writing it. So how did your mindset and how did Night Road change throughout this month as you were fleshing it out, polishing it, and putting it out finally today?
Well, in all of my games, and all the games I've developed for Choice of Games, this is number 6, I think, I start with a very bare skeleton of the basic plot structure and what I just talked about, actually, how I want the game to end and the different directions in which it can end. And then I develop stats, then I develop a rough code skeleton. And the last time we talked, I was in the very end of the process, filling in and sort of washing over previously written chapters, adding depth and adding options. For example, if you take the animalism discipline, you get a cool wolf. So I wanted to make sure that there were options for the wolf throughout the story, and also just interactions, since it's not a $100 million 3D game developed in Unity. It's just text. So it's important for me to continually direct the reader's attention to the interesting things they have going on around them. Your wolf, your ghoul, different powers that you might have active, different relationships that you have going on. So the last stage of the game, sort of what I was working on between our last interview and now, is adding all that depth, making the players feel like their decisions really matter, not just at the very end of the game, but sort of moment to moment between each choice.
That's great. And also, because it's not a graphical game, not a visual game, that's also why you can put so much little things in there, like, a fabulous wolf, or so many romance options, or so many cars and modifications. I can only imagine what a budget for this game would be if it had visuals. And, I would love to see that game one day. But yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, I want to go to the very beginning to what makes Night Road Night Road. And I really like how, Night Road tells very much of a modern vampire story. It's super much fit to the 5th edition of the Vampire the Masquerade system, talking about how, Camarilla is slowly succumbing into that new feudal, a little bit more medieval approach to things. They don't want to use technology that much because Masquerade upholding in the 21st century is so difficult. And I read your interview that you gave before, and there was one very interesting moment in there that I loved. How you said that your favorite thing about writing in the World of Darkness was seeing how much our world has changed. Could you elaborate on that and tell me how that impacted your story?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was born in 1980, so I'm very old. And so when I was a kid getting into Vampire the Masquerade way too young, let's say 92, 93, the world was really ugly. And I think a lot of the popular sort of dark entertainment fairly accurately reflected what that looked like. If you read Vampire the Masquerade city books, if you read comic books or like the Max or Spawn, and yeah, I loved that stuff when I was a kid. You saw the grit, you saw the wet cardboard, the broken heroin needles, and you could really picture what that looked like. The world was ugly in a way that was very, very obvious. And 30 years later, the United States looks very different. Superficially, it looks so clean. I can walk down a city that just had a race riot, And 2 days later, everything is cleaned and polished. All of the rubble is taken care of. It doesn't smell like tear gas anymore. We're in very bad shape in our society, but you don't see it. And I think that's really interesting. And this may sound cynical, but it's something I can exploit as a writer, as someone who writes in the world of darkness, to talk about how in the time, even between when your character was embraced 20 years ago, and now, all of that darkness has been sort of shoveled out of sight. It only happens in the back rooms of Elysium. It only happens in sewers or underpasses. The gargoyles aren't on the eaves anymore. Yeah, my favorite piece of old vampire art is this Clyde Caldwell piece that has Helena draining some poor fool, and she's in like a black leather jacket. She looks awesome and modern. She's got shades on, but behind her there's this city that could be like Lankmar or Greyhawk. It's like a fantasy city. And early World of Darkness was so good at juxtaposing, the black leather jackets and the thrash metal with this almost fantastic gothic city of gargoyles and medievalisms. I wanted to get away from that with Night Road. I wanted to produce something that felt very clean and modern, but where the moment you interacted with anything, you felt it, and you felt how rotten it was.
Yeah,
So
because
that's
yeah, it's so interesting how you manage to, combine what you observe in the real world, the changes that are going around with, for example, the first tradition, right? The Masquerade.
Yeah, the Masquerade is really interesting. I love the Masquerade because it's so unfair. It's supposed to be a fairly consistently applied rule, and it's just not. In any, if you have obviously, but if any of the viewers out there have actually sat down for a real tabletop game, you realize very quickly that the Masquerade is in many ways a sham. It's just a raw exercise in power. And it's applied inconsistently to punish. And even though it's obviously important for kindred not to expose themselves, when they do, you get the Second Inquisition. It's just a racket. It's just how elders control you. Even in games that I personally ran, it even became to the extent that elders would cheerfully violate the spirit of the Masquerade just to use it to screw neonates. They love doing that. And like, what are you going to do? Who are you going to complain to? The Pope? Like, yeah. And there's no court of appeals. There's no justice. There's just power and this thin veneer of law, of legal fiction that sort of lets them get away with that. And I loved exploring that in Night Road.
Absolutely. It's very funny how often when I interview various Vampire the Masquerade authors, the topic of either sadism or masochism happens when it comes to the players. It's great. I mean, I absolutely understand that because, I feel like we are going to go into that moment in just a little bit because I really want to ask also about the protagonist and about, whether he's a superhero or just a regular nobody. But let's start from the very beginning and from the very meat of the game, the introduction. I've noticed that you've developed a system in the game that is actually making it similar to the tabletop role-playing campaign and how the storyteller would act at the table, which is the storyteller mode. Could you tell us very quickly how this works?
Okay, a storyteller mode basically tells you at each choice what stat and skill you're going to need in order to succeed. So it's very much like the experience of being at a tabletop and having the storyteller listen to you explain how you want to, I don't know, sneak past the pig monster or whatever, and say, okay, that's going to be dexterity plus stealth. And I added that. The main reason I added that is that Night Road is a very complex system. The actual rules are built to look a lot like Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. And Vampire is, the storyteller system isn't the heaviest system for tabletop, but by the standards of Choice of Games, interactive novels, it's a beast. It's huge. So I wanted people who are familiar with choice of games to not be overwhelmed, to not stare at these choices and think, how does this affect the actual rules? How are the rules going to interact with this? Because when you create a choice of games story, you're doing two things at once. You have to harmonize the narration with the underlying mechanics. And the storytelling mode helps bridge that, both for me and for the players. It sort of lets them see what's going on. And it just makes the game easier. We were going to call it easy mode, but it's just much more satisfying for the player to have it called storyteller mode. So that helps them out. That helps new players. And it also helps me sort of organize my thoughts, because 650,000 words, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to hold in your head all at once.
Of course, and of course this is all based on the choice script, right? Because I've heard a little bit about this engine. So choice script allows you to actually put these two levels of development together and make sure that this works in practice, right?
Yeah, exactly. And choice script is very nice because it's very bare bones. The actual choice script is very minimal until I start my development. But the great thing about choice script isn't just the system itself, but it's how Choice of Games approaches using it. I talked a little bit about this in my last interview, but I'll just go over it quickly again. The great thing about choice script is that you've got your regular variables that look like World of Darkness. So you've got your strength, and you've got 2 dots in firearms and 1 dot in Protean. All that stuff. One great thing that we can add, though, is secondary variables, which hard codes how different factions view you, whether or not they like you, how different characters are reacting to you, your level of Masquerade. It's interesting that, Vampire the Masquerade's gone through 5 editions, and at no point on your character sheet do you have dots for how high the Masquerade is in Tucson, Arizona. And you don't need it in a tabletop game. The storyteller can keep track of that. But in Night Road, there's hard-coded information about how high the Masquerade is, your humanity, resources, like how much money you have.
Romans, yes. Romans.
Yes, yeah. And different, it's just a percentile. It's just a percentile of how much different potentially romanceable characters like you. And your choices let that go up and down. If you're trying to impress Prince Leto, who's the gangrel prince of Tucson, the Eagle Prince, he's very handsome. You probably want to impress him. And if you're trying to impress him, you look for choices that let you persuade Prince Leto that you're all right, and then you try to pass the relevant tests. So you stare, if you've got storyteller mode running, you look at it like, I do not have a lot of charisma plus persuasion, but I can impress him by talking about early kindred history, and my intelligence plus academics is pretty good. And you can try to bump up that Leto score. And the game tracks that. It tracks that all through the game, through your entire story. And the great thing about that is that if you ever played those old, or I guess read those old branching books, they branch too fast. Every choice is a new branch. So the reads are either very short, or you don't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
With choice script and with those wonderful secondary variables, I can push off branching for a fairly long way. You can impress, annoy Leto all through, 8 chapters. And only at the end does he decide, I'm going to destroy you. I can't stand you. Or
but can we romance him?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, you can. Let me go over the characters. You
Okay,
can romance.
okay.
That sounds important.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so you've got Prince Leto, the Eagle Prince of Tucson. He does have an ex-girlfriend, so it's going to be very complicated for reasons that'll make sense fairly quickly in the narrative. But you've got a good chance.
Okay.
He's also an elder, and he's suffering from the beckoning. So you have to consider what sort of a bittersweet situation you're going to have there if you want to stick with him. You have Julian Sim, who is the Banu Hakim, who is scheming to transform the Masquerade, and he's fun. He's a Banu Hakim, he's an Assamite, but there's just a little
Oh,
bit of
wait.
Malkavian energy.
Isn't he like I remember the illustrations. He's the one with the headphones, like a little bit of a hacker guy, very hip, very
Yeah.
modern. That's a very interesting take on Banu Hakim. I love seeing characters like that.
Yeah, well, one of the I try to bend things around just a little bit. So, like, what sort of prince do I want? It can't be a Ventrue because Lacroix already does that, and he does it. There's so much that I wrote into Night Road, thinking that look, the original Bloodlines already did a bunch of stuff perfectly. I'm not going to compete with that. I'd be a fool to try to compete with it. So you end up with gangrel princes. You end up with Julian Sim, who's a Banu Hakim because you know. The backstory there is he's Malaysian, and the children of Hakim were thinking, Malaysia has a strong and influential Muslim population. Why don't we try expanding there? I know we'll find some little tech bro, and he's going to be the future. And his sire is very disappointed with him. It didn't go as planned, and he ran off to California and then the American Southwest, and he's got all sorts of crazy schemes. And I think he's a lot of fun. He's a little mad. I'm not really convinced that his plan is going to work. I had to write it like it could, and there are ways that it can work, but I'm not convinced that he's thought this all the way through. Like any tech guy looking for venture capital, I'm not sure the plan is as solid as he thinks it is. But he is a lot of fun, and you also have 3 possible ghouls that you can pick up, and you can only pick up 1 in each game. But they're really interesting characters. They're fully romanceable, and they're also fully friendshipable. They're interesting people. You have Vani, who is a research scientist, and you meet her at this Tremere Xenogenetics Institute, this real fun mad science zone, and you can lure her into basically bailing on NVIDIA Call, the Tremere you meet there, and joining on with you, and then she opens up her own phlebotomy lab, and you can end up hooking up with her to varying levels.
Can I very quickly ask whether NVIDIA is romanceable, because she's gorgeous?
Which one?
NVIDIA.
Which character?
The Tremere.
Oh, NVIDIA. No, I decided not to. She is beautiful. The art we got. The art we got, the Amy Wilkins art, it is so good. We don't normally do this much art, but we really wanted to make a splash with Night Road, and she might be the best portrait artist working in games today. And NVIDIA's people like NVIDIA. It's weird. Like people look at NVIDIA and they're like, she's cool. I want to know more about her. And so, yeah, no, you can't romance her. I thought about it. Maybe if this game does really well and my editor, Jason, emails me and says, give me another 50,000 words, add some more girlfriends.
Add more girlfriends, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's important. Speaking about girlfriends, I want to very quickly ask, because, of course, choice of games also allow us to very easily craft our characters and make sure that we play whoever we want to play. So in Night Road, we can play as a woman, as a man, as a non-binary person. Does that affect how people around see us and how they approach us? Or is that just a free-for-all?
Mostly in Night Road, I wanted to keep that fairly a minor element. There are a lot of, it's difficult because, I remember being a kid and playing, D&D and Pendragon and, playing with young women. And there's always this difficulty with, that most young women want to play a young woman. And there's always this difficulty in games like Pendragon or any historical game. Like, how much do you hassle them? Do they actually want to experience that? And for most of my games, my answer is no. Just let them be female or non-binary and have a little bit of interaction, but a lot of it is just entirely internal. In Night Road, and in fact in most choice of games stories, in addition to the regular stats and those secondary variables I talked about, you have personality variables. And I actually based them on the old vampire, the natures and demeanors. So you can shape yourself to be, a bravo or a deviant, or I love those. I loved those when I was a kid. So you can shape your personality, and sometimes it affects things like, if you're trying to befriend or date Leto or Julian, they really care about how much of a traditionalist versus how much of a rebel you are. But mostly those stats are an opportunity for you, the player, to sort of shape your character. And same with issues like gender and which cool outfit you want. They've got a little bit of effect on the game, but I wanted the players to be able to internalize the role-playing experience of being this courier.
That's right. So we are ensured that when we pick our gender at the beginning, we are not being locked from some of these options, for example, right?
Yeah, you're not being forced into a dress. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If you play a woman, like you don't only get the pink cars. You actually get the cool cars too. Like, it's not like, I decided to hard code it. So yeah, only boys can get a Mustang. No, there's none of that.
Awesome. So yeah, going back to creating your own character, I'm going to go back because I'm actually showing some of the parts of the Night Road right now. And at the very beginning, we have the choices which craft our character. I want to go to the very basic choice, which of course I think most of the Vampire the Masquerade players care for a lot, which is the choice of a clan. And we can choose from Ventrue, Toreador, Gangrel, Bruja, or Banu Hakim as the playable clans. And additionally, you've decided to add, I remember we were talking about it in the previous interview, you were still non-decided on that then, but we do have Tremere and Caitiff as the little expansion to the game.
Yes.
Could you tell me what the development thought was behind that?
Well, the original 5 clans I thought were well balanced and had a lot. One, they have a lot of conceptual diversity. They're very different. 2, they share a lot of disciplines. The hardest part of developing the game, and the one that takes the most time, is that for every choice set you have, I have to think, would Protean apply here? Okay, what about Celerity? What about Dominate? I have to go through the whole list in my mind. So I tried to keep the number of disciplines down to what you find in Ventrue, Toreador, Gangrel, Bruja, and Banu Hakim, which is still like 7 or 9. It's a lot. But so for the original 5, I wanted to have a good balance of concepts while still having, not having too many disciplines. I didn't want to add obtenebration. I didn't want vicissitude. Because, that stuff is hard. Though I do have blood sorcery. I do have what the Tremere called thaumaturgy. And the interesting thing is that, at the time I was sort of thinking, well, Banu Hakim, the Assamites have sorcery. They are now like one of the official blood magic using clans. So I figured, I've got Banu Hakim. If you want to play a sorcerer, you can play Banu Hakim, so you don't need Tremere. And then I started reading some forums, and it became clear to me that people don't want to play a blood mage. They want to play a Tremere.
Yes.
They specifically they want to be part of the pyramid. They want to know that great granddad murdered Solot. Like they need to be part of that lore. So it's like,
I need to pause you here for a second, because I remember how you said that Tremere are actually your favorite clan of Vampire the Masquerade because they do not fit in Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's so cool that the Tremere sort of and they come out of this completely different game from White Wolf in the late 80s. They come out of Ars Magica, which is this proto-mage set in the Middle Ages. And so they have all these little fangly bits, bits of lore that are hanging off them that don't exist in the current timeline. I think that's what makes Tremere really exciting to me. And nonetheless, I tried to say, no, I don't need Tremere because I've got the Banu Hakim. And then everyone was like, oh man, I don't want to be a blood sorcerer. I want to be a Tremere. Okay. So I decided to add them. And then I decided to add the Caitiff because, as you've probably seen in the first chapter, your skills and your stats come in blocks rather than like assigning dots and hearing that little bloop bloop sound effect like in
Yes, just to
Bloodlines.
very quickly tell us, our viewers who are actually play the game, you can very easily check it out in the show stats. So after a choice, you can check out show stats, and this actually shows very nicely how the blocks are being locked slowly, how you like
Yes.
get the additional dots, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, and like in most in chapter one, as you build your character for most of the clans, it comes in sort of big chunks. So you decide once you decide your clan, if you're like a Toreador, okay, your sire is Despine, this sort of exciting jazz musician who loves crafting flesh, and it asks you like, what was your job there? Were you her bodyguard? Were you one of her dancers? Were you her AV technician? And that assigns a huge block of like stats and skills. So if you're her AV technician, you get intelligence and you get technology. For Tremere, though, I actually wanted, or excuse me, for Caitiff, though, I actually wanted to have a chance to assign dots individually. So you actually, push the button for each dot and build yourself up as a caitiff. So I think a lot of players, after they've played the game once or twice as different clans, are going to really love shaping the specifics of the character.
Yeah, and
So
that's
that's caitiff.
So you would recommend, because I want to know what is your mindset as a writer, to play the game first and then probably check out the expansion if people want to get a little bit more of an experience, right?
I think you should give me as much money as possible. So you should absolutely buy that expansion right away. It's not more than like a cup of coffee. Go ahead and get it. Everyone get it. It's gonna be great.
But to make sure that we get you a lot of cup of coffees for that, is there a lot of additional content added with the, for example, Countrymere? As how much of a difference is the playthrough as Banu Hakim and a Tremere?
It is different because if you're Tremere, NVIDIA Call is your sire. One of the so you actually get to interact with her. Yeah, see, you get to interact with her a lot more. And one of the things I did in order to get new players up to speed, and probably everyone watching this knows how humanity works and Masquerade and all that stuff, and even, Frenzy. One of the things I wanted to do for new players, though, was that the first time you lose humanity or lose a Masquerade point or go on a frenzy, you get this little flashback where you're interacting with your sire or some more experienced vampire, and they explain what's going on. So if you play a Tremere, you actually get the experience of NVIDIA Call sitting you down the first time you violate the Masquerade, and it's a flashback. It's like 20 years ago, and she's saying, "Don't do that," and so you get a little quick vignette with your different sires. So that's the largest change. We also have some thoughts we might want to add a few extra options later on, but right now it's the flashbacks, the discipline selection. Banu Hakim and Tremere, I think, only share blood sorcery. Otherwise, they have two different disciplines.
Yes.
And also how people interact with you, how they insult you. If you're Tremere, they always call you usurper. And if you're Banu Hakim, actually you try to keep that on the down low. So you usually try to pass yourself off as some other clan. Prince Leto figures it out pretty quickly because he's 300 years old. He's not going to be fooled by your dumb tricks. But everyone else thinks that you're like a Toreador or a Ventru or something. So that's the main difference.
That's great. And of course, okay, we talked a lot about the basics, the beginnings, and I want to drag us a little bit further away to the game and to the weird parts, because you said in one of the interviews as well that apparently some of your, as you put it in words, your eccentricities were accepted by Karim. By the way, greetings to Karim Muammar our brand editor for doing an amazing job with checking all of the choice of games and all of the other products to make sure that they are very much accustomed to the lore, but they still got you, made you able to put a Rolls Royce with the aircraft engine in it. What was that? Can you tell me about this?
Well, Prince Leto used to be a World War I fighter pilot. He loves planes, and I think one of the themes of Night Road. Remember the old books where every single book would always tell you what the theme was and what the mood was, and the old World of Darkness. One of the big themes of Night Road is everyone here feels trapped. When you interact with Dove, who is the Princess Nosferatu enforcer, she used to be a courier like you, and she just doesn't like you because she's stuck in Elysium, all day. She just wants to drive, and there's so much frustration with all of these Camarilla trapped in this gilded cage that they're forced to exist in. Whereas, and like, your life is hard, man. It's dangerous every night. You're dodging the sun, but everyone in Elysium sort of looks at you like, man, I wish I could be them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to go for with Night Road.
And that's great.
Defining elements.
Yeah, and you put a lot of the a little bit more weird stuff the further away you go from civilization. So, for example, there is this weird facility that you go to, and I actually have some screenshots from that part of the game where not only you are to explore a facility which probably has something paranormal inside, but there are also humans around, and you need to make sure to work with them or do something with them.
Yes. Yeah, one of the things Kareem really talked about, and the other sort of high-end developers really talked about, is to sort of make sure, they told me, Kyle, when you're developing Night Road, make sure that there are humans around. It can't feel high fantasy. It can't feel like a parallel universe or like just a world that only exists that's full of vampires and werewolves. And that makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, if you surround this neonate vampire, your character's only been doing this for 20 years. If you're surrounded by all these elders in Ancilla, he's going to feel powerless. And that's a frustration that could happen in early versions of World of Darkness. You're like, 13th generation scrub Bruja is hanging out with Helen of Troy and Menelaus, and man, I can't affect the world. I mean, here's Baba Yaga. What am I going to do about her?
Well, you better run.
Yeah, so in 5th edition, you see this, you see the beckoning, and you see all of these systems that re-protagonize these lower power vampires. So one of the things I really emphasize is look, man, make sure that there are people running around, not just a bunch of 400-year-old elders. And so when you interact with these people, you sort of realize oh, this isn't Elysium. I can crush these people. If I've got one dot to dominate, they're mine. I can pick them off one at a time. One dot of potence, and I can twist them apart like fresh bread. They don't have a chance. So you sort of get to savor your power there in a way that you can't do hanging around with the Eagle Prince.
Of course, being only while being with other mortals, you can truly feel like a vampire, right?
Yeah, because otherwise, if you're always surrounded by these elder vampires, man, you feel like a little kid at the adult table. You don't want that. But yeah, so. And the other thing he emphasizes is that, if it's going to get weird, and Night Road gets weird, if it's going to get weird, you have to keep it grounded. It can't feel like, you're a Kuei Jin wandering around the hell of being cut to pieces. It can't feel like a parallel universe. It can't feel totally out there. So you're in a very weird environment. This is toward the end of the game. You're pretty powerful. And you're wandering around this biosphere, this failed biosphere experiment that's completely overgrown. So it's since it's a greenhouse, it's all turned to jungle out in the middle of the desert, and something is hunting you, and you don't know what it is. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because you have to buy the game. And so in my original draft of this chapter, it was just you looking for this one data cache that a Tremere left there with all sorts of information that Prince Leto wants to use to stop the Second Inquisition. This is a key to his plan to stop the Second Inquisition. So you got to find this thing. And it was just you in this cat and mouse game with this thing that keeps to the shadows. And that was cool. It was a cool chapter, but I don't know, I felt like something was missing. And then I remembered Kareem's advice. So I ended up adding these 6, I think, six journalists and their hangers-on who are trying to figure out what sort of atrocities the federal government committed here on kidnapped immigrants back in like 1970. So you're trying to deal with them because they're not going to back down. Like, they see the story of a lifetime here. You can't get rid of them. And so again, depending on how your personality variables have been shaped at this point, because it's fairly late in the game, you sort of know who you are. You're either going to react with real concern because, oh, geez, they're going to get killed, or you're going to be furious because you just want to get rid of them. You have a job to do. Something is hunting you. It's also hunting them. If they see it, like, it's a masquerade violation.
Yeah.
So, and then like, oh, well, then you got to either dominate them if you have dominate, or kill them, or do something. So it manages to enrich what was originally this sort of, it felt like Alien Isolation or something. It felt like,
I love Alien Isolation, so every time it's mentioned, it's not the first time it's mentioned on the news stream. I'm just so happy.
Yeah. So, I didn't want to just feel like it's like, you as this like vampire, like marine hunting a xenomorph. Like, so these mortal characters really enrich the game. And so that's my favorite chapter, actually, is Biosphere Zero. I really love it. And that's why. It's because it has these mortals running around, just making everything so much more difficult for you.
I love having my life being made more difficult for me by storytellers or game writers and designers. So thank you. I would love to get to that part of the game and see how I can beat it myself. But of course, about beating, we are checking out on the side of the screen here. We have all of the different choices and things that you can do in this particular place and places to go. One of the last questions I want to ask you is how can players avoid the fear of missing out, because there's just so many options, and when I was getting through the game I was thinking like, oh my god, but what if I would go this way? What would happen?
All of my games are built to play through multiple times. I think that one of the goals that my editor in Choice of Games always sets for me is to make sure that no matter what happens in an individual playthrough, it's satisfying. Even if you end up getting, crushed by the Second Inquisition, or if you join the Second Inquisition, even if Leto tears you apart at the end, he's dangerous. Be careful. He seems nice, and as elders go, he is nice, but that's only as elder vampires go. He's nice for an elder vampire. If you annoy him enough, he'll just twist you apart.
Difficult romance, hooray!
Difficult, yeah. It is a difficult romance. But every playthrough is built to be really narratively satisfying. So you will get, I think you get really great story no matter what happens. And one of the great things about the World of Darkness is that even if you play the whole thing and you're broke and you're stuck in this abandoned apartment because the Second Inquisition burned down your cool haven, and you're constantly wounded and you never have enough blood to fix yourself and everyone hates you, it's kind of cool to play the game that way.
Yeah.
It's really, it's cool to be a dirtbag in the World of Darkness. You've got nothing but a crappy gun and one dot of auspex and a ghoul that hates you except she's bloodbound to you, and you're trying to get through the game like it's cool. So I think that as you play the game, even if you feel like you're not doing well, savor that. There's something really neat about being just really desperate in the World of Darkness. Playing a desperate vampire is really fun, and I think it's sort of part of the core experience of being a vampire. Is that, man, it is not easy. One of the cool things about Vampire that's carried all through all the different editions is that the moment you try to just survive a night, just not become like Primogen or be a real badass, just getting enough blood to survive the night. The moment you try to do that, all of these setting and system elements pop up to make your life so damn difficult. Mm-hmm. It's such a hassle just getting through the night. And you don't have a coterie here. This is not coteries of New York. This is you and a car in Tucson.
I mean, a car can be a coterie member. Why not? Yeah. Maybe a touchstone even.
So yeah, savor those rough playthroughs. They're really fun, and I've been getting feedback because there have been a lot of beta testers, and these beta testers are so happy when for 2/3 of the game they're driving a car that they got handed because their last two blew up, and so they're driving a Pontiac Aztec or a 1978 Buick Century or the Bluesmobile or something. They're driving this piece of junk. They've got no money. They're totally desperate, and then about 2/3 of the way through the game they just catch that one break. They just make that one choice that's breaks out the game, and suddenly your little Camarilla score or whatever jumps from 40 to 60, and you're okay, I have my chance here. And I was thinking about signing on with Julian, or maybe betraying all these bastards and becoming a Second Inquisition spy. No, I have my chance here. And you end up fighting tooth and nail and fang for the rest of the game to pull out a pretty cool win. So yeah, there are a ton of options, a ton of ways the game can go. And so yeah, you're gonna have to play it, I don't know, 5 times to really see everything. We try to keep branching to a minimum. So each of the chapters, you'll see a good chunk of each of the chapters. But yeah, you're going to have to play it a bunch of times. And another thing about Night Road, which is pretty rare in choice of game stories, is that in addition to 5 parts of linear narrative, when you start and you have some development and then the climax at the end, you can kind of choose those courier missions in any order, and the game changes if you take it in different orders. So that's another part of the game, another part of all the different ways you can go. So yeah, you're going to, if you don't want to miss out, you're going to be playing through it a fair number of times, but hopefully every individual playthrough is satisfying. Even if it's hard, it's going to feel good.
That's awesome, and I want to, as one of the very last things, show people the playlist that you have prepared for each of the clans, just for a little mood. If people want to get in particular in the mood of either playing each of these clans or meeting them in a game, I feel like this playlist is actually really solid. I'm not really sure why you tell me that it's not, because I love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was just a bit of fun because I listen to the Bloodlines playlist a lot. I've got that scratched CD. No, I think I sold the car and I forgot to take the CD with it.
No.
So someone is driving around with a busted Nissan Altima with a Bloodlines 1 CD and maybe Tools Animus kicking around somewhere in the trunk.
The CD might be one day worth more than that car, actually. So
yeah, it's already worth more than the car. Yeah. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun putting together a playlist. A lot of it is it's like cornfield rave music.
Cornfield rave.
Yeah, I am not a city gangrel. I live in the woods, and so yeah, our raves were in fields, and so yeah, you're going to hear a lot of Prodigy, a lot of 90s techno, and it gets into some later stuff. But yeah, it's great driving music. If you have 50 minutes and 45 seconds or whatever it is of driving to take care of, pop that soundtrack in. It's going to be great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us today. There was a lot of information, and apparently Night Road is available on Steam already, so people can go and get it right now. So
yeah, I just saw it come out before we started our conversation. It just dropped, so it should be out. Go play it. Go have a great time. Everyone go have fun.
Thank you so much, Kyle, and I really hope that Night Road is going to be super successful and you're going to get tons of feedback. And guys, if you have any feedback, go to discord.gg/World of Darkness. There's a specific channel for choice of games, which we want to make a little feedback place for Kyle there. And if you want to just praise Kyle and tell him he's awesome, go there.
Yes, praise Kyle. Everyone go and praise Kyle.
Praise Kyle. And also that's, people can also do it on your Twitter, which is, I believe, Muchava. Is that right?
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything, but yes, it's Moochava.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle, and see you later.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Alright guys, so that was the special Vampire the Masquerade Night Road episode, and thank you so much for joining us today. And I feel like we had enough of reasons that Kylie has given us to spend the rest of this day or night playing Night Road and hitting the road. Until the next time, don't get lost on the road, and see you next time.